All right, folks, welcome to our Energy Review 2024. I hope that music woke you up a little bit if it was actually coming through. It's been a tough year. I know everyone is probably still feeling rather depleted, ready to take a break, right? So we appreciate you coming out tonight. Hopefully, all of what we're reviewing tonight is not just also depressing, right? Tough year, but we've got some positive things to talk about. We have some hopes for the next year. Let's push through this last webinar, and great to see you all. So Zoom setup, as usual, please stay on mute if you are not speaking. You can turn on your video if you're comfortable. We are recording. Use the chat to ask questions as we go along. We are going to hold all questions verbally until the end, but if you have questions as we go and you put them into the chat, our expert panelists may be able to answer them for you live in the chat. Automated closed captioning is also available. And then when we do get to the Q&A portion, you can use the raised hand function to ask your question or put it in the chat, or we'll queue up in another way. We don't have too many folks here tonight, so we should be able to get to everyone's questions. Few community agreements. Please engage with kindness. No forms of discrimination will be tolerated. Speak from your own experience. If you find yourself speaking a lot, do leave space for others, especially useful in the question and answer period. If you have a lot of questions, let everyone get through their first round of questions, and then we'll do a second round. We're going to try not to use jargon, acronyms, industry language. We are dealing with energy topics that are full of acronyms. So do call us on that if we reference something and you don't know what it is that we're talking about. We may ask you to continue a conversation outside of this webinar if we are running low on time. And then we might not have all the answers to all of your questions, but if it is something that we can get back to you about, we will certainly do so. This webinar is our last one for 2024 in our Clean Energy for All series. So we've had these every other month for the past 2 years. You can check out the link there. We will get that into the chat as well if you want to go back and watch some past sessions. Several of our slides tonight will also link you specifically to previous CEFA webinars because they expand more on topics we're referencing. So you may find that there is a great full hour resource for something we're talking about tonight if you just look back to a previous session. So we'll try and point you in the right direction when that takes place. We have several speakers tonight from Sierra Club. So we've got Kelsey Krebs, Tom Schuster, Nate Regal, and Emily Abendroth, and I am Melissa Farr, Senior Distributed Organizer for the Pennsylvania chapter. We will have each speaker introduce themselves a little bit more when we get to their section. For those of you that are joining us, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Anything you're comfortable sharing, names, pronouns, where you're coming from, what brought you here tonight, what are your hopes for the next year. Let's get some positive vibes going in the chat if you feel up to it. Our agenda for tonight is really our action agenda for the past year, the next year, and moving forward, right? So we're going to be looking at moving beyond dirty fuels, advancing clean energy, uniting climate justice and housing justice, defending federal climate progress, helping you make a difference, and then also answering your questions. So our review themes are our themes that exist at all times when we're doing our work as Sierra Club. And we appreciate you coming along for the ride. Okay, I think with that, I'm turning it over to Kelsey Krebs for our Moving Beyond Dirty Fuels portion. All right, take it away, Kelsey.
Hi, y'all. Kelsey Krebs, she, her pronouns. I am the senior campaign organizer for the Beyond Dirty Fuels campaign based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So howdy. We can go to the first slide here. But part of moving beyond dirty fuels also deals with addressing our previous issues with dirty fuels. And so many of folks know Pennsylvania is a really long extraction state. We've been drilling oil and gas wells here in the state for a lot longer than a lot of our other states across the US. And so One of the things that I've been working on and will continue to work on, since there will be continued money to be flowing into the state, is watching how Pennsylvania has been utilizing the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act funding to plug their orphaned wells across the state. So that's part of what I meant when I was talking about we've had a longer history of extraction. We have a lot of holes in the ground that we don't actually know where they are. And so part of dealing and finding these things has become a very backlisted problem. And we actually were able to plug over 250 wells with the first 2,500 or $25 million dollars in from the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, as well as some emergency funding that the state had in Pennsylvania. And this is actually more wells than we've been able to plug in a number of years combined, almost about a decade combined. And so this is a really interesting way of kind of, again, moving beyond dirty fuels. We also have to think about how we are managing and taking care of where we've been drilling. There is still an issue, however, with well abandonment. And so this is another issue that we'll be working on beyond, is that a lot of well operators, when their wells are producing as much, they can abandon them. So essentially turning them back over to the state and things if they've gone bankrupt or if they've moved the equipment off of it and they sort of just like let it sit there and they don't take care of it, plug it. It's called abandonment. And so far in 2024, DEP has issued or continued violations for 823 abandoned conventional wells in the state and 26 abandoned shale gas wells, so the frac wells. And one of the campaigns that we're still going to be working on moving forward is still to raise bond amounts for these wells, because bonds are something that's tying money and assets to that, so it's harder for companies to participate in business practices that include us as subsidizing part of their industry by putting that asset back onto the state. So I used a lot of jargon in there. I hope that folks ask questions about some of this stuff at the end if you're curious about it. But we can go to the next slide since this is going to be some continued work. It's great that their wells have been plugged, but it's going to be continued work as we still see abandonment of assets back to the state. These were a couple of bigger wins over the year. So I know folks might be familiar with this, but they might not be. So again, please feel free to ask questions. We were fighting a pipeline fight on the eastern part of the state and on the eastern part of the state. And we had a DC Circuit Court of Appeals that actually vacated the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's certificate for that pipeline. This decision was a really great decision in terms of the precedent that it set in our legal system, and also in terms of having another issue for us to call out a really big agency to say you need to do a proper assessment of these projects before approving them, because some of them are very unnecessary and unneeded. And this pipeline in particular was something that did not need to be expanded. The state of New Jersey actually was saying that they didn't need the extra gas that was being talked about for this particular pipeline project. And so there really wasn't this end market conversation that sometimes other exports or pipelines have more justification for when they talk about this. New Jersey said they literally didn't even need the extra capacity. So for FERC to be a rubber stamp in terms of approving that, and then for a DC Circuit Court of Appeals to vacate that certificate, really says that FERC needs to do a longer due diligence process on the ways that they look at these projects that are coming in to them for approvals. That still, despite that that's a great decision, unfortunately that pipeline is operational, and so we are in some appeals decisions for that. But it still is something to have on the books that we can point to say like, FERC, you're not doing the best job that you could be doing, and we need to stop approving these pipelines projects that we don't need. And another piece of this year that was really great was the Department of Energy halted approvals of new liquefied fracked gas export facilities while the agency was reviewing its criteria on its public interest determination. If we go to the next slide, actually, for this next bit, the public interest determination is something that we hadn't some new reports here. Sorry. That was great. The public interest determination is something that we haven't the Department of Energy hasn't taken a look at in a very long time to change how we determine whether an LNG export facility is in the interest of the public. And once we now have a lot of research, a lot of studies, a lot of firsthand experiences of frontline communities who are talking about the ways of which LNG or liquefied frac gas facility export facilities are destroying those local communities and harming critical ecosystems, as well as those exports are actually increasing our domestic energy costs and really making it at the end of the day, we will never meet any of our climate goals if we're continuing to approve all of these export facilities. So these are a couple of new reports, even in the last month, that we have to put towards the fact that we need a new public interest determination. And that determination really needs to be that these LNG export facilities are not within our public interest. I will say that we are expecting that the results of those health studies to actually be released tomorrow. So if folks stay tuned, there should be some more information coming out about what these what the health studies and that some of that information that was being collected over time was going to be released. Unfortunately, this is something we may not see move forward within the new administration, but that doesn't mean that we aren't going to be fighting along the way for sure, as we're seeing LNG exports continue. I'm not sure. I do think I have one more slide, folks. I'm trying to be quick. I apologize. There's a lot to run through. Oil and gas waste in Pennsylvania. There was a new book this year from Justin Noble, who has done fantastic reporting on oil and gas waste issues in the state of Pennsylvania and beyond. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about that today because it's a really great read. And if anybody wanted to get into a group huddle together, we'd happy to be doing some reading with y'all as I go through that again. But we did a Clean Energy for All webinar series called It's Scary Out There, How Oil and Gas Waste Haunts Pennsylvania. And this is really to set up some rulemakings that we're anticipating in 2025 that folks can get involved in, including some of the ways of which the road spreading of gas waste is currently being allowed underneath certain loopholes within our state policies. So definitely sign up there on that link to get involved and into some groups. We'll be talking in getting on some listservs to make some public comments on those rulemakings as they're coming up in 2025 that are related to this issue. So that's what we're gearing up for in 2025 in the state too. And I think I'm going to be passing it off here to the clean energy side.
All right. Thank you, Kelsey. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Schuster. I'm the director of the Pennsylvania chapter. I use he, him pronouns. And I'm based in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And tonight I will be talking a little bit about some clean energy success stories that we saw this year. Starting with a new wind project that is going in Cambria County. So this is called the Rogues Wind Project. It broke ground this August. And the reason why I'm highlighting this here for a couple of reasons. Number one, we did see a boom in wind development about a decade ago, but it's slowed down significantly. So this is I think important development here. A couple of years ago, a company called Competitive Power Ventures proposed a project outside of Johnstown on a ridge owned by the Johnstown Water Authority. And as we see a lot of times with these types of things, even more so lately, public is not consulted early. There's a lot of opposition. The developer doesn't necessarily do their due diligence, and people were pretty upset about it. I was approached by a Sierra Club member who lived near the project and had some environmental concerns about the project. But she was aware of a site that she thought was a lot more suitable from an environmental perspective which is farther north in Cambria County on this land that is formerly a strip mine, now an ATV park managed by the Cambria County Recreation Authority. Had been previously studied for potential wind development, but it fell through for reasons that were specific to the developer. So we invited the two of us invited the developers to a meeting and said, look, you guys are going to have a big problem moving this project forward, but have you looked at this alternate site? And they hadn't. And they did, and now they're building it there. So I tell this story because this is a major emerging issue when it comes to clean energy deployment. We're going to have to build a lot of it. We're going to have to build it fast, and a lot of projects are getting held up due to opposition. And I think there's a big role to play for people in local communities to be productive in this conversation and to make sure that we're doing this the right way. Next slide. One of the biggest policy success stories of the year was the passage of the Solar for Schools bill, which passed this past July. And it allocated $25 million to a grant program, which will pay for a portion of solar development at schools. Incidentally, there was also $100 million that was approved in the budget that was part of the but it's dedicated toward energy efficiency projects and other energy projects at schools. So I think they're very complementary. The Inflation Reduction Act at the federal level allowed schools to take advantage of solar in ways that they hadn't before, because they can now access basically a payment in lieu of a tax credit to offset the cost. And this is a grant on top of that, which will make it much more economically beneficial for schools throughout the Commonwealth to go solar. This is an issue that was very much supported by labor as well as environmental groups. The picture I'm showing here is from International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers union training facility in Pittsburgh. And they are very excited about the economic opportunity as well as the training opportunity that this program provides, because not only are schools like public and elementary, high schools eligible for it, but also trade schools, career vocational schools are eligible as well. And the application period is currently open. So if your school district, if you know people in your school district, members of the school board, members of the administration, I encourage you to reach out to them and encourage them to apply for this program. Next slide, please. And we will talk a little bit about some of the state level legislation that is aimed at trying to increase the required percentages of clean electricity in the grid mix. That hasn't come to fruition yet. We're going to still work on that. But there are other efforts that are helping to try to increase demand for clean energy, even though the state has not acted yet. A couple examples here, and I see some folks in the list who have participated in one or more of these efforts. So thank you all for that. One of them is a settlement that our coalition reached with PECO, the largest electric utility in Pennsylvania that serves Philadelphia and the broader metro area. And they had to essentially create a plan for how they're going to buy electricity to supply to people who don't shop for their own electricity. It's called default service. And the state level requirements for clean energy apply. So they would have to purchase a minimum of 0.5% from solar, which is not very much. And we've in the past made several attempts to try to get them to exceed that. And this year, the initiative that was that we supported, that was led by the Power Interfaith, actually succeeded in reaching a settlement that will require them to buy 25 additional megawatts of solar energy from a new project that is above and beyond what the state requires. And it's not a huge project, but it is a huge precedent. Because what it will do, and our argument was based on the idea that if you enter into a long-term contract for solar, that will make the solar cheaper. The developer has a guaranteed market, they can get a lower interest rate, so the cost will be less than if you tried to buy it over short periods of time, which introduce more risk to the developer. If this pans out, if we actually have data in Pennsylvania to show that it is in the best interest of ratepayers to do this, then I think it could potentially open the floodgates for the Public Utility Commission requiring all utilities to do this in a big way. So that's very exciting. Secondly, at the municipality level, there is a project that is underway, has been underway for several years, but at an exciting phase right now because a number of municipalities in Centre County are voting to approve a regional power purchase agreement. That's what PPA stands for solar. I know a gentleman by the name of Peter Buck, who has, I think, attended some of these, has been instrumental in leading this charge. Folks from the Moshannon Group have been supportive, showing up to council meetings and advocating for this. And so far, I don't know how many they're up to right now, but the majority of the demand that was part of this deal has officially approved it. So it's looking very good for this Centre County power purchase agreement. And then the third effort, and I see Bill Sabian here, who's been a part of this, perhaps others, is at the community level. There's something called community choice aggregation. And what that means is that it's kind of like a power purchase agreement, but instead of just serving the government entities electricity demand, it can serve the entire community. So folks who live within a borough that is participating in community choice aggregation will have access to solar power that is purchased in bulk at a lower rate by the borough itself. In Pennsylvania, there's an odd legal quirk that allows only boroughs to do this. And it is currently, there's currently a proceeding at the Public Utility Commission to determine what such a program would look like and the parameters, but this would be the first such program if it's approved by the PUC in Pennsylvania, and a way for some of these communities, many of which who have adopted Ready for 100 pledges in previous years, to actually make good on those pledges. And I think that is my last slide, and I'm only a minute over, so I'll turn it over to Nate.
All right, thanks, Tom. Clean communities. I think many of you are already aware of this, but just just in case, Clean Communities is a project/program that it's a statewide effort to try to maximize the amount of federal funding coming into the state to meet clean energy and transportation types of goals, and along with environmental justice and everything like that. So one way that we've been trying to move this Clean Communities project forward is to focus on schools, and multiple reasons why. But one way to think about it is everybody lives within a school district, and everybody that pays local taxes basically contributes to to school districts. So you have a say, and there's a lot of different programs that are available for schools. So there's a lot of, we'll say, bang for the buck when you want to focus on one sector. Schools is a good one. So we have a letter template there that I think you'll be able to click on that when you get the slides. Has a lot of information about the existing programs. It's a good mix of state and federal, which we'll move down to pretty soon of why that's important. But it addresses everything from energy efficiency, renewable energy, clean transportation. So all around money savings and healthier environment for the students, for the staff, and healthier environment for the community. And the nice thing is we're still pushing this regardless of what the political atmosphere is. And one reason we can do that is because of that mix of state and federal programs. And you can join up for the Clean Communities Project. There's a little link right there in the chat. Thank you. Next slide, please. All right, so community solar. That was for me a priority of my workload last over the last session. So the bill that was introduced, it went through the House rather successfully, but then stalled in the Senate. And I think most people can agree that this would be great for Pennsylvania to be able to enable community solar, especially if Solar for All funding gets released. Being able to put money into community solar would really help DEP implement their program. And one way I like to think about this is when I worked for DEP, this came up in conversation a lot, and it always came up as like a hypothetical, like, boy, wouldn't it be nice? But it was never really thought of as being okay, this is going to happen. And now all of a sudden it's kind of like, wow, this is really close. This could happen. So I am optimistic, even though it got stuck last session. I'm optimistic for 2025. Next slide, please. Oh, yep, and that was the House Bill 1842. So all of that stuff that I just mentioned, that's right here on this slide, and there are some talking points. So if you are interested in having a conversation with more people about that, you can find some talking points about community solar. Next slide. And I'm really going to go quick over this because I think this is pretty old news, but the emphasis is we do have an alternative energy portfolio standard that's out of date, very much out of date. We have a newer Pennsylvania Reliability Energy Sustainability Standards, PRESS, House Bill 2277. Now, PRESS didn't go anywhere at the last session, but the hope is it gets reintroduced in 2025, and we just put more effort into trying to get this to move. Next slide, please. And basically that same story goes with PACER, although this one's a little bit messier. We would like to see RGGI. So RGGI is the #1 priority. It's still stuck in court, so we're waiting. We are hoping, of course, for a favorable ruling for RGGI. If we don't get RGGI, though, then we have PACER. So the Pennsylvania Climate Emissions Reduction Act, House Bill 2275, which again, hopefully will get reintroduced in 2025. And we have that to promote also. And I think that's it, but let's go to the next slide just to make sure. Okay.
Thanks, Nate. That's now me. My name is Emily Abendroth. I'm the program manager for Philly Climate Works, and one of the largest projects that we've been working on across this year and the year preceding is our participation and support for this larger coalition called Here for Climate Justice. This slide is just telling you what that kind of meaty acronym stands for. So housing equity, repair, and electrification for climate justice. I've definitely talked about this coalition in other spaces and in a previous webinar. So, but just on the premise that not everyone may have been in any of those spaces. Next slide, just to say a little bit more about that coalition. There's a link that is on the slide and will also appear in the chat that will take you to the coalition's website. At the footer, this is probably literally the most important thing can say in terms of keeping up with the work we are doing. There's a link to sign up for our monthly electronic newsletter. You can do that both through the contact form. That's right, the one that Kelsey just posted. And that comes out monthly and says, like, here's the upcoming actions around this coalition. As it notes here, brings together community orgs, home repair providers, workforce and community development partners, and climate justice groups across Philly to fight for safe, healthy, affordable, fossil-free housing for all. There's about 18 different Philly-based member organizations across those categories that are part of it. And what we have really been pushing for together is to see that housing justice is climate justice, and that in the context of Philadelphia, though certainly not only Philadelphia, many of the most direct ways that people are both already feeling and will certainly be feeling in amplified ways in the future, the impact of climate change is directly in their housing around increased heat, increased flooding, and a very old housing stock that is already in disrepair that is just suffering more stress upon it in relation to that. So on the far side of this is the sort of three pillars of what we're fighting for: healthy, affordable, climate resilient housing for all Philadelphians, affordable fossil fuel-free utilities, and then also trying to guarantee both of these require a workforce, and that the people who are doing those green jobs work are actually like treated with dignity and have living wages that support them and their families. Next slide. Then I'm just going to tell you what our two priority campaigns are for this upcoming year. Again, specific actions around them and stuff. A great way to stay abreast of that is through that monthly newsletter. But we are on a long-term campaign that we do not expect to win this year to transition Philadelphia Gas Works off of fossil fuels and into some other form where it's either a heat provider or like that imagines a plan for itself that is in alignment with the city's own 2050 climate goals for net zero or carbon neutrality. Currently, Philadelphia Gas Works is not in alignment with those climate goals and does not have a clear plan to do so. They have a very tiny greening plan that accounts for less than 1% of their annual carbon emissions in this upcoming year. So it is trying to get city council to require them to speed that process up and to have actual benchmarks on a regular basis that show that they are actively and actually making that transition. Next slide. And so this is just a picture. We are trying to do this through all kinds of ways, including trying to push the Gas Commission to continue to allow community group participation in the PGW budget process. So this is just a photo of a lot of people participating in a hearing that happened on November 18th against a regulation that would prohibit community groups from participating meaningfully in that process. Next slide. We don't yet know the outcome of that, so stay tuned to sort of see what they decide. And then our second largest goal is around expanding comprehensive home repair access in Philly. There are three primary ways that we're trying to do that in the year to come, and one of them is advocating for the whole home repair program to be allocated funding in the 2026 state budget. As folks know, that program started with an initial allocation of $125 million and then failed to get funding in the last two state budgets. So folks are strategizing for how to return an allocation to it in the year to come. The majority of our attention is on the Philly-based program that Whole Home Repair is actually modeled after, called Built to Last. And we successfully pushed for support for that in the city budget last spring after the mayor had failed to include an allocation for it. And we will continue to be pushing for expanded support for that program in the year to come. And then just consistently trying to push for greater transparency and accountability in those home repair programs that already exist. In the case of Philly, the basic systems repair. That was those. Sorry, that was a speed round. And so I hope that people will ask questions if they have them. And again, the very last thing I'll say is just like the best place to know what we're doing on a month-to-month basis around that and action steps that you can take is through our newsletter. That's it.
All right, so that is back to me. So I'm going to be talking about some of our successes in this past year in terms of federal policy and plans to defend that with the incoming administration. So this past year, we saw a reasonable list, a nice list of standards from the EPA, SEC, and DOE. Sorry, acronyms, they're listed there on the screen, of revised pollution standards. So these were all finalized in 2024. A lot of you were involved in submitting public comments in support of those. And they did all make it through without being eliminated through the Congressional Review Act. I'm not going to go into the details of how they were threatened this past year, because for now, we're good to go. That being said, it doesn't mean that they are entirely safe from the incoming administration. So I want to highlight 4 in particular, the power plant standards that EPA released as a package. We did a lot of celebration around these. The carbon pollution standard, the mercury and air toxics, or MATS standard, and I'm just going to keep going in the interest of time, but you can always look back at the slides and read the details, the coal ash standard and the wastewater standard. So those were all released by the EPA at the same time. We celebrated them. Woohoo. We were concerned that the Congressional Review Act would be utilized in Congress to roll them back, but the threat actually came instead via lawsuit. So fossil fuel industry and their allies filed lawsuits in opposition to those standards. Those have survived up until now. So in October, we were excited that the Supreme Court denied a request to just block those standards from taking effect. So they did rule that it was within the EPA's authority to limit greenhouse gases from the electric power sector. And it does allow the implementation of those standards to move forward while litigation continues on the merits of the lawsuit itself. So those standards, that package of standards, the power plant pollution standards, say that 3 times, is in court still. So we will be looking at that in the new year. But, overall positive. We are also looking at OSHA standards. So this is kind of energy adjacent, but it is worth talking about. Within the past couple of months, OSHA proposed revised standards to protect workers from extreme heat. And so we've done some work collecting public comments, hoping that these standards go into effect, that these standards will actually go ahead and protect workers, an estimated 36 million workers from unsafe extreme heat conditions. Okay, so public comment period was extended. We expected it to end on December 31st, but it was extended an extra 2 weeks. If you have not already, you can click that link and write your public comment in support of these standards of protecting workers from extreme heat. It's really easy to do it through that portal right there. This is not a Sierra Club portal. This is actually OSHA's public comment portal. So please do that before January 14th if you haven't already. Even if you're not a worker, you know a worker who might be impacted. This impacts people who work indoors as well as outdoors. And so there's a lot of, There's hope that these will survive in the new year. But again, incoming administration, there's no way to know whether they will reach a final state or not, but that doesn't mean we stop fighting, right? And fight we will. So we do currently have an active petition. Stay Strong for Climate. This is also a short-term petition. It is closing January 9th, right? So if you have not already seen and signed this from us, please do it now and send it to other folks. It is closing that early because it will be delivered to the incoming Congress, congressional leaders, prior to the January 20th inauguration day, trying to get things in front of them before any chaos is unleashed. And we're really asking them just to remain firm in their commitment to climate action. So all of these rules that I just talked about, all of these pollution standards, we want them to stand behind that to, say that we're not going to go backwards, not to fold to whatever pressure is coming in the next 4 years. A lot of polling has shown that IRA programs have bipartisan support. So Inflation Reduction Act funding that has started to trickle out. There's a lot of support for that, right? Across the aisle, people have a lot of support for it once they learn about what those programs do, what those programs can do to impact their life. So we want congressional leaders to stand up for those programs. Polling has also shown that voters across demographics generally support clean air and clean water and the EPA. So we want to make sure that we are highlighting that people want to have a healthy environment regardless of who they voted for. And then also highlighting the cost of inaction, especially from extreme weather events. So all of these things are in this petition that will be delivered to Congress before Inauguration Day. Please sign it, please share it. We need to continue to get in front of lawmakers. So that's why I have this fun photo here of some examples from the past year. We've had a number of volunteers go and talk to lawmakers in DC, at both capitals. We have a photo from the EPA office in Philly. There's a photo in front of the White House, some photos from just a couple weeks ago. So if you are interested in doing any of this federal work, defending this progress as we move forward, please sign up for the chapter advocacy team. So there is that link for that. You too can be in a fun photo that we use for Energy Review 2025, right? You want to be one of these photos next year. I'll give you a pretty little frame and everything. So come join us. Okay, so then I'm just going to keep talking because what can you do after tonight? Sure, take a break, get some sleep, and then join us. We've got 2 more meetings that you can join in December. So tomorrow night is our chapter advocacy team meeting at 6 o'clock. Wednesday night is our combined conservation team year-end meeting. So that will include our clean energy team, dirty energy team, clean transportation team, all of the energy topics with our other conservation teams meeting together for planning for the new year. So you can spend every night this week with Sierra Club if you so choose. And then in January, a little bit different, but if you're interested in outings, and it doesn't mean they can't be energy related, the outings program is having an info session on January 15th. And then our next new volunteer open house is Thursday, January 23rd. Watch Inauguration Day, get really pissed off, come and join us at a new volunteer open house and take action that Thursday. And then the 4 sign-up buttons that you saw throughout this presentation tonight, I have also listed them here on this slide. So if any of these are of interest to you, go ahead and sign up. Sign up for all of them if you want to be really super cool. And then to access these slides, we will get the link into the chat there. All of the links on these slides are live. You can click right through them. And then with that, we are at the answering your questions portion. So I am going to close out of our slide deck so that we can see all of your faces. Stop screen sharing. So question 1 is, are there any questions that were in the chat that were not answered that anyone has flagged? Otherwise, folks can start raising their hands or asking any other new questions that have come to mind. Any lingering chat questions? I'm not seeing any. Any new questions? Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, I think there was legislation in the state legislature for orphaned and abandoned wells. We had a presentation about that in Delaware County. I don't remember the bill numbers. Does that need to happen? I think nothing like that was mentioned in the presentation about the orphaned and abandoned wells. Do we know anything about that legislation or whether it could be done without legislation?
Hey, Sue, I definitely, in the part about the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, definitely was talking about some of the orphan and abandoned well questions. I'm not sure which piece of legislation you're referring to specifically about it, but I'd be happy to touch base afterwards and see which one that would be. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking through something that we were concerned about a couple of years ago, but I apologize because I'm not sure what would be moving right this second. We did see over the summer more dueling bills for the spreading of oil and gas waste on roadways, but with oil with the abandoned and orphan wells right now, we I guess Vitaly's, no, I guess we did have a bill out there. I apologize. I'm just, I'll get you that information and send that over because I know that that was sort of a fixer bill that we had put out there and worked on with Vitaly's office to reverse the rule, what happened at the Environmental Quality Board back in 2022 in the summer is when we saw the Environmental Quality Board's authority to raise bond amounts for oil and gas wells stripped away just for conventional wells, so just the shallow gas industry. And I do know that Representative Vitale was putting out a bill within the last session. So it would have to be reintroduced, and I need to go check and see that it made it through one of the memos coming out here. If folks have been seeing those legislative updates coming through, lots of the memos about what's being reintroduced next year. So I'll double check on that and send you that information though. But Tom, I just thought you'd come off mute. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, so legislation to increase the bonding amounts is unlikely to pass in the Senate because it was the Senate that capped the bonding amounts in the first place, and that was a very high priority for them in the budget. And so until the composition of the Senate changes, that isn't going to pass. I think our best chance there is for the Supreme Court to side with us, or maybe a lower court to side with us, to say you can't cap them artificially low because the data are very clear that it costs a lot more to plug a well than they're required to put up for a bond.
I wonder if any of them happen to be within reasonable driving distance of Philadelphia, like if we could arrange a trip to some of the abandoned wells. Oh, I don't know if anybody could.
You mentioned it, and now I'm gonna make it happen. So
Depends on what you consider reasonable driving distance.
yeah, exactly.
An hour and a half, something like that.
I was gonna say, I do think that within the driving distance, especially, I'll have to check some public lands, but it's been on my list of anything anyways to kind of be planning more outings related to this issue across the state. And so I'll connect with you, Sue, about that for sure.
Thank you.
And I'm just checking the chat here. Thank you, Nate, for putting those in there for the co-sponsor bill about the memos already coming out about the bonding issue and EQB. So that's great. I did see a question here about the distinction between orphaned and abandoned wells. So I'm going to quickly do that. But an orphaned well is a well, I sometimes call them legacy wells. For folks who don't know, we've been drilling wells since late 1800s, early 1900s here in the state. We were the birthplace of the oil industry up at Drake's Well in Titusville. And that was sort of the birthplace of a lot of our modern day oil industry in general. So Pennsylvania has a really long history of extraction here, but that also means that we were kind of pre-regulation. So if you think about the fact that we were out there able to drill wells on our property, but didn't have to have necessarily like all of the same environmental regulations that we have today, where we would be closing those things with proper, casing or cement, or how deep do you do things? A lot of that kind of stuff came about after we had already been drilling in this particular state, unlike other states. Again, just based off of when we were settled and had more people who were living here versus other parts of the country. But the orphaned well issue means that it is a well that we have no identifiable owner for. So an abandoned well, technically speaking, could be something that one of the companies who is still operating in Pennsylvania could have removed all of the equipment from that well and has not plugged it. And it's sort of just sitting there. A lot of times what we see is companies will declare bankruptcy, and those wells will then come back to the state is responsibility to be taken care of and being plugged. But again, abandoned technically means though that like there could be and usually is a identifiable person who and or company, specifically a negligent company, who is out there who is not taking care of closing up their own assets and is pushing off that plugging cost and work essentially because there isn't necessarily something that's sort of tying them to doing so more quickly, which is why we're trying to raise those bond amounts. A higher bond. Currently bond amounts are very, very low. And so it essentially, it's almost kind of like I always talk about it like a rent deposit. If you were renting a place, you have to put down like your first month's you put down your first month's rent and you put down like your renter's deposit, but you could get that back if you treated your apartment well, kept it clean, no holes in the wall, that kind of thing. And this is essentially a very similar situation that the state operates with, but on a much higher scale. And because that, deposit is so low, and we have things called blanket bonds, which means companies would only be paying up to a certain point, you could have 100 wells underneath a particular blanket bond, and that would be dollars per well per plugging project compared to something like what it actually costs to plug a well, which is more along the lines of $38,000 for a conventional well. So I apologize because that's a lot of information in there, but abandoned means that we have an identifiable owner. I will say that in the state of Pennsylvania, we have one piece of policy on our books that's also unfortunate, that a lot of our wells that were drilled prior to 1984 are technically also considered under that orphaned definition and do not have to have a bond amount set aside. We are one of the only states who has that particular like loophole, that a lot of our wells that are operating that are older than that don't have any money set aside for them and are underneath of that definition, technically speaking, and don't have to have bonds set aside. So I'd be happy to send any more information about that also, because I know I'm talking fast and trying to make sure that other folks have room for their questions.
Okay, acknowledging that Mark asked if who in Harrisburg is likely to reintroduce PACER in 2025, and Nate has not heard anything about potential sponsors. I thought that was really interesting question. And then Fred has a question about community solar. Fred?
Yeah, I raised this at a Citizens Climate Lobby meeting and also at our Sierra Club political meeting. I think community solar is something that might be real helpful if we could educate people more on what it's about. I mean, with Solar for Schools, it's real simple. It's more funding for schools to go solar. So I myself actually have some questions about community solar. So do you have anybody you might recommend? I was going to check with the PA Solar Center. I was going to try to have an educational event with our local Citizens Climate Lobby about it, because if we know more about it, we can, lobby better for it with our legislators. And specifically, my question, I think, is, would the community solar project be on your Duquesne light bill, something that you could choose, and that would be something that would be tied right into your Duquesne light bill? And would the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission be the one to determine what that rate is for community solar? Questions like that. How does it work? So I'm going to be doing some research on my own. I'm trying to educate our CCL group about it. I think the more we know about community solar and understand what it is, the better chance we have of getting people excited about it and getting across the finish line.
Well, Fred, you're asking a very, very technical questions that uh, I could tell you how the bill was written last session. I would have to look into it and find out, but that's no guarantee that in 2025 that's what it's going to look like. As far as maybe the feedback that people have heard, making amendments to the bill. So some of those questions you're going to have to wait until the new bill language is introduced, because it's not. We'll say it's more into the details of how the community solar would be implemented. But I can also, so I can either or both interact with you afterwards to have a discussion about community solar, and I can point you to other people that are also very in tune in that conversation.
Yeah, I think what might be helpful is knowing how other states implemented community solar. And also, I'm planning to contact PA Solar Center and see if they might be able to give me more information. But I just think there's a need out there to educate the public what it is exactly. I don't think they, fully understand it. And the more we know, I think the better our chances of passing it. Thanks.
Well, let's chat a little bit afterwards, because I have a whole file folder full of information that I can share with you. I just don't know to what level of detail that you're looking for there.
Sure. Thanks.
Any other questions? We've got 2 minutes, so we can fit something in if someone has one. Okay. Seeing and hearing none. If something comes to you at 7:32 after we've closed, please feel free to email us. You can send it to me and I can reach it out to whichever one of our speakers is the best person to answer it, or you can connect with them directly if you already have their contacts. The recording and the slides for all of this will come out in email tomorrow. And I think that's pretty much a wrap for this year. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us tonight, to the folks that contributed to slides and spoke tonight, and thank you to all of our guests and everyone who's been a part of Sierra Club Pennsylvania this year. It's been a year, but I would look forward to working with everyone next year. Rejuvenate yourself. Let's get back to work fresh in like a month, right? So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves.